double. Oh, there we go. Good. Oh shit, it does it for me. Big dick ban. Big dick ban. Ah, fuck you, dude.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our Thursday Power Hour.
Yeah, it should be a good one. We've got a few little bits to go through. We are up for any and all questions as usual. So if you have any questions about websites, SEO, social media, anything in between, do just shout out. Or it could be something random, but I might not know the answer.
We can try.
Yeah. So I am Michael. I am the one of the directors of E2 Studios. I do a fair chunk of the front end, some of our client relations, and support the team with a variety of fun little tasks that they're working on. We have Ailey.
Hello. So I'm Ailey. I handle the social media, I handle the graphics, and I design websites. It's part of the teamwork structure that we really care about, in the fact that a developer is not a designer and a designer is not a developer. If you work with us, we give you a full rounded project that is taken from both perspectives.
Yeah.
So
Last week we started with a project for a incense burner website.
Yeah, we were going through the step-by-step for SEO on it.
Yeah, so we started that process. Once a month, we're going to be running through that again to go through what we've done to push that SEO forwards, what learnings that we've took in place for that, share it with everyone that is on the streams as well, and they can see that journey. We will have a separate playlist on places like YouTube where people can just see that journey kind of come to fruition. So we need to set a date in the diary for when we come back to that, Ailey, so we can let everyone else know. But we'll let you know when we've solidified a date for that.
It's a great way for you guys to see what actually goes on behind the scenes and what all the steps and procedures are to make your website work online for you.
Yeah, so we've put a few steps together that we are going to be working on within this next month about how we're going to support and grow the SEO journey for that site. And then we'll be sharing the kind of statistics and news about how that site's progressed and what changes have occurred. And then we're also going to be looking from a social media perspective as well of how that looks. But we'll concentrate on SEO first, and then we'll move forward on the other part later on. But yeah, it'd be great to have anyone here who wants to go through those as well. Additionally, we are offering, if people want their own site to be SEO'd live on air, we can go through it with them as well and give a few tips and tricks that might help support their SEO site nice and easy, where they can do it themselves or speak to a professional to do that for them as well.
Yeah, brilliant. So today the topics, since we've covered SEO, we're going to do a little bit more in depth about the custom coded websites, which we are specialists in.
Yeah.
So let's fire on in, and let's first quickly discuss and explain what exactly a custom coded website is.
Yeah, I mean, it's fairly broad as a term. What it really boils down to is generally the lack of use of CRM systems. So for CRM systems, we're thinking of things like WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, Shopify. All those different parts you would classify as a CMS web-based system where multiple people use the same platform. There is some limitations in what they can and cannot do because they are built by a third-party developer who has created the system for the many, not the few. There is also advantages to to CMS-based systems, and they will be things like if you are doing something that is fairly not generic but well known or popular, then there's probably enhancements to do that through those systems without any major modifications. So there is pros and cons to those.
Yeah, and we're not bashing. We never ever bash these platforms. Every platform has its place. Some of them we do, some we don't really like at all.
But no, it's good. But yeah, there is a place for some of these platforms where they do some good stuff and they allow people to do some flexibility. Now we do use WordPress internally for some of our projects, particularly for clients where they want a standardized shop system. Then it's simple and easier to utilize something like kind of WordPress's WooCommerce platform. However, if it needs to be something that's different, then we would move to something else.
Yeah.
So a custom coded website for us would enable us to create very bespoke requirements for a user. Whether that is, so we've just been helping support a business who sells educational books, videos, podcasts to both educators and also to parents. Kind of similar to something like Oxford Owl or Roald Dahl's website. So we've been doing one called Epic Tales for I don't know how long now, probably maybe 7-8 months. Now we've been working with the owner of that business to support their requirements, and we decided together with the business that a custom solution was the better process to work on. They did originally have a site on WordPress, but they found limitations on the way that they could interact with their users that they wanted to try and do. So when people go onto that website, it is extremely different for a educator, for what they see and the way they utilize it, to a parent and how they need to use the site, and also to a child that just wants to watch some stories and videos online. So there is a very different approach to the way that one kind of builds and creates. So we created a custom solution that allows all those bespoke elements to be managed. We created a CRM system ourselves for the client, where he has got a very customized CRM. So instead of having things like on WordPress where you amend posts or whatever, it allows the site to be very specifically created, where he can update his stories or his podcasts, all being done in there as well. Additionally, we also connected it to some podcast software like Captivate and other systems and Vimeos, where it'll pull API endpoints into it rather than having to upload videos to another platform. You can do it in one place and we can pull on those automatically.
We've got a question that's come in on YouTube from Nathan.
Hey, Nathan.
And he is asking, how does a custom coded website compare to a normal Wix-based website?
Okay, yeah, so we briefly touched on elements of that. So with Wix, so there's a few elements here. Firstly, with Wix, you do not own your website. you might own the domain. I guess you never really own the domain. You more rent a domain through a registrar. But I won't go into too much technical parts about those. But with Wix, the designs are all built from their templates, so you don't own it. So if you decided to one day move your website, then
you're building it from scratch all over again.
Yeah. Additionally, if you decide, well, if Wix closes, then your website goes with it.
If Wix decide they want to change their policies or they want to up fees, then you have
to follow those rules and regulations. Or if they, as I said, if they up their fees, then you can either pay more or make a new site. You're kind of at their mercy to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Now, having a custom coded website doesn't absolve you of costs. There is still things like hosting fees. They're a bit more negotiable because you can move elsewhere. But that's the first thing I would say about Wix is costings. Additionally, if you've used Wix as well, Nathan, you have probably seen their templating systems and you'll put in components. There is a limitation of the things that you can do within Wix, because the only things that you can do within Wix is the stuff that they have programmed it to do. And you can't make very custom changes to it. So you wouldn't be able to amend their code base if you wanted to add something that they haven't already pre-built.
Yeah. You're also looking at, like adding email is another cost. Adding selling is another cost. Eventually in Wix, all these little extras that people think are free actually add up at the end of the day. You also have to issue the fact that it's not a fully responsive design. It's actually a bunch of microsites, which reduces your loading time and everything. A great example of a kind of microsite is sort of the Facebook platform, because the app is completely different from the actual
I only
website.
noticed that more recently. I was looking at a potential client site which was on Wix, and when I changed the window screen, the whole site looked dodgy because it's not a responsive design. So if you tilt an iPad from the side to one side, the website might not refit back into Wix.
Yeah.
But there is.
And what we mean by responsive is if you've got a desktop design and someone wants to view that on a mobile, how does that look? If you want to look at it on an iPad, how does that look? And with the way that Wix is, it's lots of they're basically a little website in themselves to get that to work. Whereas custom coded, it's created with that in mind, so it adjusts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say I was a fan of Wix. Probably wouldn't even be close. However, there are uses for it. So there is elements where if you're looking for a really well integrated system and you're looking from a custom solution, I'll be very honest, it's going to be a lot more expensive than utilizing Wix, at least for the first couple of years, because Wix is created based on reusable components. So they sell the system to, hundreds of thousands of businesses for, let's say, £10 a pop for easy math. Then that's already $1 million. We're only creating the platform for you or for the individual client. So the cost is more because we're not reselling that platform. It is going to go to an individual, but they are created bespokely for those requirements. And they're not really reusable for other elements unless specified elsewhere. So with custom ones, they're generally going to be more expensive. They will be more attuned to what you need and they're more adaptable. So if you were on Wix and you added a component in, you say, actually, I don't need that 40% of the system. If we were creating something similar, we just wouldn't create that 40%. We'd just create what you need. Or we'd add on extra stuff that you might have as extra requirements onto it as well.
Yeah, and we do see that these kind of platforms are a good springboard platform. So if you're just getting started and you don't have a budget to build something, then maybe you need to go for these platforms for a little bit until you start generating that income. Once you start generating that and you want your business to grow with you, you want it to last longer, you want the SEO and for it to be more secure, then you start looking at a custom solution or alternatives.
Yeah. I think it depends on your business's requirements. So if you've got if you need a very, very simplistic site that just says, hi, I'm Nathan, I sell, tattoos. Here's a few pictures of my tattoos. Could it work on Wix? Probably. There's no real complexities in there. if you decided to want to start offering like fully integrated booking systems, but outside of the Wix platform, if you wanted to have customizable elements on there, then you might have to look at a custom solution. I would generally say if you want a CMS system, I would say it'd be probably better to go with something like WordPress or something similar, because it is slightly more complex than Wix because it's not as I guess user friendly to some extent. However, you would own your site at the end of it. So WordPress is open source. You can amend the code, you can change things, you can create the design. So that would be what I would suggest is if people are going to earlier sites and they don't have the budget, WordPress is a good caveat as well. But it's not as easy as some of the other platforms, I'm afraid. But I guess that's the elements you get. You can pay a cheaper cost, but you'll get less functionality overall. But it might be easy to work on, and then the more it goes up, the more complex availability you get for the sites.
Yeah. So basically, like we said, to recap, Wix has some limited features and technical things in it. Sometimes security can be an issue because it is such a open platform. But it's a good springboarding platform if you just don't have the budget right now to build anything else. Alternatively, you could be looking at WordPress. So WordPress is a bit more complicated in terms of you have to know some of the coding languages. You have to understand, how it's going to look on multiple devices. You have to kind of have that idea in mind because it's not just going to give you a template. And then the more complicated end of it, but the more, I'd say, sort of more flexible, slightly more secure, and sometimes the design is just much more interesting, is the custom side of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Cool. So
thanks for that, Nathan. Really good question.
Yeah, I hope it answers your question and we haven't been too technical because we tried to avoid being too technical.
Yeah, if you have any follow-ups, just please ping another message in the comments.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about our next one, which is, are custom-coded websites more secure? So I thought this was quite interesting.
I
guess it's our most hated, most used phrase is "it depends."
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they were inherently more secure, because you could get a person that creates a custom website and the crap. It doesn't mean that it's going to be more secure because it's custom. It could just be that the developer is crap and makes a really bad, unsecure website. I have seen many codes where they are definitely custom, and my head's in my hands because I'm like, how has this ever come to a live situation? And there is issues with it. However, I've also seen the same in WordPress. WordPress is a little bit more easily unsecure because there is plugins that can be installed or themes that can be installed which do have things like viruses or malware.
You've also got the issue that if someone's also using that plugin or someone's also using that theme and one person finds a way to break through, then they can use that same technique on your site as well. That's
pretty much it. Because WordPress is an open source platform and their plugins are also visually available to see the code, there is people and there is teams of people that specifically look at finding vulnerabilities within these systems to find ways to get into people's sites. I have looked at projects that we've taken on to support where WordPress sites have been riddled with malware, and we've either had to look at removing it or unfortunately what it generally comes down to is it's got so far entranced within this site that we have to look at rebuilding it, which is a lot more cost than I think what a lot of the people that were looking towards getting. But we've seen one in particular where the site it had backdoor links where a person could go on and just click a button that said download all users in database.
That was
it was pretty bad. And every time someone made a sale on the site, so it was a shopping site, all of the information and billing addresses were pinged over to the relevant, company, whoever was, stealing this data. But so I wouldn't say custom coded websites are more secure. but I would say that they are less prone to attack because they are custom, because there is not as easily a way to get into them.
Yeah.
That
And you're not relying on these templates that someone else uses. You're not relying on these plugins that someone else is using. You know, we had a really long discussion in one of our previous lives where we talked about how sometimes plugins don't update in time. Sometimes plugins update and are not compatible anymore. So when you're relying on these third parties to update properly, then yes, it's a security risk. It's just naturally is. But at the same time, you know, WordPress can be very secure. There's lots of things you can do to secure it. But I always feel if you're working with mass data, like tons and tons and tons of people's information, you don't want to be relying on these plugins. You want to be like, right, this is my site, this is my template, this is my work, it's secure, and I know it's secure.
I think there's also another question about what does secure mean, though.
Yes, that is a very good one.
Because it depends on the definition. So if we look at things like kind of GDPR regulations or kind of data protection, if we talk about security, the amount of extensions that are on sites, whether it's custom coded or not, because a lot of custom coded have these as well, will be things like analytical tools, will be things like YouTube embeds, or third-party iframes being embedded to have contact forms. What is secure on a site? I.e., like if I were on a site and I was filling in a form, where would I expect that data to be held? Now, I could create any custom site and it has a analytics on there, but that data could be then passed over to Google. That could be then sold to the local pharmaceutical company. I mean, is the data technically secure? Yes, but it doesn't mean it's not. It couldn't be used for ill-gotten gains to an extent.
Yeah.
So I think
we've
there's
got
a few
another
elements
question
there.
in now.
Okay.
So Nathan's come back with another brilliant question:
All right.
is what is the average build time of a custom coded website?
Oh my god.
Your favorite question?
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest, Nathan. It really is up to what the site is in need of. If we're talking a fairly simplistic site in terms of the way it's going to be structured and the data that's going to be there, we're probably talking maybe a month, maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah.
If we are talking a full platform that has kind of login systems, it has in-depth profile areas, etc., it can be longer. We have worked on sites between 3 weeks on custom solutions and all the way up to 3 years. So it really depends on what kind of site that is being built, and I couldn't give you an answer, I'm afraid, Nathan, of what that average build time takes without knowing what kind of website that it would be. I would generally look at a baseline.
Yeah, you've also kind of got to also consider the fact that maybe later on down the line, when the site's almost finished, you come up with, another idea. So that means that we go back and we add it in. There's always things that you can build on with custom code, which is quite fun. So that can extend the time frame as well.
I mean, I was talking to a client recently, and when I spoke to him right at the start, it was pretty clear that the site that he needed was a very, very basic build. But we spoke for a good hour and a half about his business and what he wants to do. And actually what he started to discuss is where he wants the site to be in like 1 to 2 years' time, and that he wants more adjustments to it, online booking systems, login systems, payment gateways, all that stuff. And then I said, well, we can either go down a kind of a CMS route, some of the stuff we were talking about earlier on, and we can build something in like WordPress where it's fairly simplistic. However, if in 1 to 2 years you want to start looking at adding all these things in, it is not going to be compatible with WordPress, or it's going to be more expensive to put it into WordPress than it would be to do it in a custom site. So what we decided to do is do the first part in custom first as well, because actually over the longer period of time, it's going to save him more time and money. When we build something custom, if we know that something is going to be done in the future, we can half pre-prepare it for some readiness. So we're not going to stop it from being able to be done, or we can have a full conversation about what those needs are. If we kind of go back to the question regarding average build time, I would probably say for a standardized site where it is very much just here's our company, here's our services with no, I guess, login systems or payment gateways, we're probably talking 3 weeks to a month in terms of time. That would be for things like a design to be scoped out, a build to be created, and back and forth between ourselves and the client about, does this work? Do you want to make some amendments, etc.
Do you like the design? Why do you like the design? If not, tell us why you don't. Is there elements you like? Is this functionality something that you feel you're happy with? Or do you want it to be even more simplified? Or do you want it to be a little bit more complex? Do you want more menu options? There's so many little elements that a lot of web developers I have seen haven't talked about. So like if your menu, do you want it to be drop down? If you have it drop down, how many tiers do you want on that? How many buttons? These kind of things all are taken into consideration with every build.
Yeah, I mean, so it's everything else in there as well. But I'd say if you ever want to have a chat about it, just let me know. Or if you have any more specifics about a type of custom site, about what we would, I guess, very loosely average for a time, then please just ask. Happy to answer.
Yeah. So this kind of ties in with what we were talking about last week. Does custom coded websites rank better?
Generally not. No, I'm not here to say that custom coded websites is the only way forward, because there are elements where the other parts can work. I wouldn't say custom coded websites specifically rank better. There is a lot more flexibility to change things than you would with some of the other kind of third-party systems. But it's really down to the content on the website, not up to how it was coded. So do you have the right meta descriptions in place? Do you have the right backlinks and associated referring domains to come into your system? Do you have a decent domain authority? Do you have the right content, the right imagery? All that stuff is the combination of SEO and rankings, not the code base behind it.
There's also a design element as well. So is it easy to use? Is it actually properly responsive? Is it easy to navigate? Can you get the information you want from it quickly? Those are some elements. And if someone's using the same template again and again and again on a website, Google can rank that lower. But at the same time, you could have a brilliantly built, custom-coded website and you do nothing with it.
Yeah.
So it is content. We have another fantastic question from Nathan.
Okay.
Which I will just fill up. So, if I was starting a car washing business and I wanted a website that customers could book from, what would roughly cost and what would be the time you would need to build this?
Okay. Car washing business would have a few different services. Okay.
It's a good question. It makes you think.
It is. I'm trying to think of the elements that I would be thinking about for a car booking system. So the things that I would be thinking about is different service types. So is it standard valet? Is it a quick wash and go? Is it a fully immersive wheels and trims and under the car? All that kind of elements. You would then probably think about what is the average time it would take for a car of that nature to clean and to do it with. Because that would form part of the booking price. A quick wash and go is going to take 15 minutes, whereas a fully immersive deep dive into the car could take 2 hours. So
we also want to consider, are you the everyday car or are you like specialist? So like, are you working with
there's a few cool things
you
can do with that as well that I don't think any, or at least that I've seen valet companies or car washing companies would be things like you could even update it to be connected to like DVLA, where you could even put in a reg and you'll know what type of car model it is.
Yeah.
There's cool things you do. I'm not saying that would be a need for the car wash. I think you would just have something like a drop down. Are you a 4x4? Are you a camper van? Are you a small size car or whatever? Okay, so booking form. So the booking form for these, you would probably have it as a slightly slightly more calendar-based booking form because you would need to be able to know where you could slot them in. I.e., you don't want them just setting, I want it at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning, and then 100 people book that exact same slot because, generally speaking, you probably not be able to fit them all in at that juncture. So you probably have it slightly more like Calendly-esque in nature. If you've got more than one car wash or more than one person who does car washing, you could even get it to attribute to certain people. For us, I think for something like this, if it is a user goes on, and I'll be pretty rough and simplistic of what I'm going to go through here. A user goes on, there is no login systems. I don't think you'll probably need it for the car wash. We could do one. A user goes on, they book a slot, they could pay there, potentially, or they could select pay cash in hand, whatever you want to run it as. If they did it online, you could even get them to pay a deposit. So you would keep it if they cancel their slot, whatever you want to do. We're probably talking there maybe 6 to 8 weeks, I would say, as a rough guesstimated time slot. For costings, that would probably vary based on the requirements. Probably talking between 15 to 2,500. So around the 2K marker, I would guesstimate. Yeah. But again, it is purely a guesstimate at this stage because I don't have the full details. Nathan, if you ever want to have a chat, you can always ping me a message if you want to go through it in more detail. But that's what I would probably estimate it to look like. But yeah, we can get loads of cool stuff. We can even turn it into apps if you want to do a car washing app. And you can even get push notifications. Don't forget your car needs to go to the wash in 25 minutes. Whatever else there's loads of cool things we can do with that.
When people come to us with their idea, we take obviously what exactly they're wanting, but we also make suggestions like, well, how about we try adding this feature to it? So like the text message notifications and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's
just
things
to make the customer's experience a bit better, as well as like we like automating stuff, so we also want to make your life easier as well.
Yeah, I'm into automation. I mean, there's things that you could pretty cool could do with like a car wash. You could have like if you did have people create an account, then you could send them an email like a month later saying like, bet your car's going to be dirty. You want to click here to book a slot now, kind of stuff.
And you can give them like loyalty points and things like that.
You could make a little loyalty point system. Every 4th car wash is free or whatever you wanted to do. There's loads of cool features and bits you could put into it to entice. And that's what I would say is the beauty of custom coded websites. Whatever you want, you could probably end up doing. It just depends on your business model, how you want to run it. Could even get it where you would update your own. If people had, I don't know, came to the car wash directly and didn't go through the website, could have a QR code outside it where they could scan it, and it'll also, as soon as they scan it, give them a point for their car wash automatically, so it knows that they've got a wash, and then that's another one for their loyalty card, whatever else. But yeah, loads of cool stuff that can be done. That would be a rough cost and timelines. That does depend on a few bits. One, the information going back and forth between us and the client, because that has to be fairly quick to get to those junctures, and probably more so on just, I guess, finalizing some of those details with designs and elements like that. So, if we send something over and ask for a review on, I don't know, the design, and it takes 2 weeks, then there's less time for us to actually complete things. So it's really a two-way street when we think about website development.
Excellent. So we hope that's kind of given you a really good answer on things. So the next question that I have coming in is, you've kind of already answered it.
I was going to say, did we answer the last one? I can't remember if we did or didn't.
Yeah, we did. You said, you can have a brilliant custom website, but if you're doing nothing with it, it's not going to rank. So the next one, we've kind of already answered this, but I guess we could go in a little bit more depth, is, do custom websites have more flexibility when it comes to hosting?
I mean, this one's mostly an easier yes.
Yes.
This one isn't as much of an it depends. It's more so a yes. Now, if we think of places like Wix, Shopify, Squarespace, those ones, they are hosted with the relevant platform provider, and you cannot move them. Let alone you can't move them. Even if you did and stole the design and used it, it is breaking terms and conditions and copyright law. So you can't move those. It's just not possible at all. So for that part, yeah. For WordPress, you do have some flexibility with hosting because you can move it around as long as it has the requirements for PHP and a MySQL database. You're generally okay to move around. So WordPress does have some flexibility. For a fully coded system, I mean, you can pretty much go anywhere. You could have your own development server, which is pulled from scratch and installed of all the right extensions you need. It could be really cheap as chips in comparison to some of the other hostings because you have to self-manage it and self-run it. Whereas if you're not used to websites, then you would probably want a managed server where you pay, I don't know, £35 a month for the hosting, and they would give you email addresses, or if your site breaks, you can contact them for like support, or if you break your site, you can contact them for support. So there's different elements of different types of services running, but custom solutions definitely have a lot more flexibility because custom, you could do it in any language you wanted to. So it means you can go pretty much any server. It could be hosted anywhere in the world. So yes, ultimately on that one, custom websites have a lot more flexibility. Generally speaking, depending on how it's run, they could be a lot more lightweight. Because if you think of like WordPress with all of its extensions, plugins, availability, it's quite a heavy system by default. I think a WordPress system is generally minimum of about maybe half a gig when you've got some stuff on there. Some of our sites don't even get past a couple of 100 meg because we only build what's needed for the site. We don't have loads of extra elements that you'll never use. They're just what's needed on those websites. So it really depends. But yeah, there's a lot more flexibility. Move it wherever you want. Just depends on the amount of time it's going to take to do some of it, but you can move them fairly easily.
Yeah. So ultimately, yes, it is easier. Totally depends on what your requirements are. If you're totally technical minded and know what to do with servers, then you can put it on your own one. If not, you can find someone to do it for you. Usually we recommend someone hosts it for you, mostly because if you're running a business, it gets busy, you'll forget to do backups, you'll forget all of these little things that are usually quite beneficial for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So going into our next question is, do custom websites perform better? So I'm going to take this in the basis of being responsive and load times.
They can. Again, this kind of goes back to who's making the website compared to how it was made. I've seen some WordPress websites perform brilliantly because the person who's run it knows what to do and what not to use to make sure it's faster. I've seen some that are at crippling pace because people have literally thrown every element that has availability within WordPress, and they've got 600 plugins to do one small thing each, and inherently all those things as a combination slow them down. Similar on a custom solution platform, I've seen really, really clean and quick sites, but at the same time, I've seen some that are just dreadfully slow and have too much in there. I think sometimes it's a combination between the developer and sometimes the cooperation with a designer about how the site is going to look and act.
Yeah. And sometimes you've got the one person who claims they can do it all, and then something falls by the wayside.
Yeah, and there's parts where more like less like do they perform better, more like can they? And I think from a custom solution, there is more flexibility for it to perform better because you have full control into making those changes. So if you know something isn't working, then it can be changed. You're not beholden to a third party to make those adjustments. They are within the control of a custom coded website. So there is a lot more flexibility to make the performance better than some of the third party systems. I wouldn't say that by default that they are better, because some people just make crap websites. That's pretty much how it runs. But yeah, there's definitely ways to increase performance much more succinctly. There is, for WordPress, there's a lot of plugins that can help support performance building, but you have to install more plugins to get that done or built the right way. With things like Wix and Shopify, you're kind of at the mercy of their platform. It depends on how much stuff you're throwing on the page, but at the same time, you're at the mercy of their platform and how responsive their servers are, or how great they are at working on different types of browser platforms or whatever else. But yeah, so I'd say I wouldn't say they specifically perform better, but they can perform better than a lot of the other third-party systems.
Yeah, definitely. So it's not, custom coded solutions aren't like the be all and end all before anyone thinks that that's what we're advocating. What we're advocating is that there are different solutions for different people and different platforms that work for different people. We are specialists in custom coded website and software development. The guys are fantastic with their code, creating some really amazing little things that I haven't seen done in other agencies before. So yes, we do favor the custom side, but we do work with WordPress. If we have to, we will look at other platforms that need some support. But ultimately, our focus is the custom and WordPress. It just depends on your budget. It depends on your budget, your needs, and what you want the website to do and how you want it to function. There's been plenty of times we've seen websites that start off on WordPress and then they keep slapping more and more plugins on just to try and get it to do what they want it to do because of the limitations. When it comes to something like that, then it's time to maybe look at a custom solution. So it's all about where you start off and where you see the business going. So if in 10 years' time you see it becoming this bloody massive multinational £1 million company, then maybe a custom solution would be a bit better for you. But it's all depends on requirements.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there is definitely elements that can be adjusted for custom sites. I think we've done some blogs and there's loads of material out there. I would say, similar to what Elliot said, platforms can be used for a multitude of reasons. Some of their pros, some of their cons. Do your research about those different platforms before you take a dive, and make sure that it is comfortable for your type of platform, really. And does it have the right infrastructure that you're going to need in the future? Do you need to be able to resell that? Because you're probably not going to be able to do it on Wix. You have to resell the company, but you can't sell the website for them to do what they need to. Does it have the right structure in place for you?
Into it as well as the ability to evolve in response to business changes. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the ability to evolve in response to business changes. I wouldn't say custom solutions make it fast to evolve, because the difference with a custom solution, you've pretty much built something, and making adjustments can be sometimes not more complex, but they're a little bit more ingrained than drag and drop systems where you can move something out, because they're built specifically for your system. So without knowing the requirements at the start, if you decide to change something, then it might not be as simple as it seems. But there is a lot of flexibility what you can do from a custom solution. So if you needed it to evolve, you needed it to change, you needed to add a contact form onto the system, or similar to what Nathan was talking about, if you wanted to add a booking system, but then you wanted to bolt on a booking system that allowed PayPal payments, or you wanted to then allow it to set certain time slots or reoccurring time slots, and those things were changing, they can be updated. And we don't have to. So if you were on something like WordPress and you had a booking system, if it doesn't have that functionality, you would have to remove that plugin and find a new one that does have that functionality, and you would have to then change your system and the way it works, because there isn't in that solution. Whereas for us, we could then look at integrating it to be the right solution. So,
yeah, and often with plugins on WordPress, for example, there is a charge for premium features So
Yes.
it is a kind of give and take solution.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of spoke about it earlier on with places like Wix, where if you want a shopping element, it'll cost you extra per month. Or if you want it to have emails, it'll cost you extra per month. All these different parts kind of continue to bolt on. Very similar to WordPress. WordPress is a good system, but their system doesn't do, I guess, anything without plugins. It has blogging systems, and you can design some parts, but it doesn't functionally do a lot of stuff that we see now without plugins. Some of the plugins are free, and you can add them parts on there. Other parts have premium features, as Ale was mentioning before, where you would need to pay either a one-off cost of like $79, or you would have to pay a annual cost. So for the WooCommerce system, which is one of their largest shopping systems, they have plugins, and some of them are things like $300 a year just to actually have that plugin. And you would need to keep that into your costing budgets as well. So for us, if we were building a custom system, unless it was costing us something monthly to run it, we would make it for a user, and they would just pay for the one-off cost, and it is just their system. It's just theirs at the end of the day. So there is no monthly cost, there's no annual costs. There'd be costs of if they wanted to make changes to it, and we were contracted to make those changes. But actually, from the original build, you are paying for it. So it might cost you, I don't know, $1,000 or whatever it is. But you're not paying $300 a month for that platform. It's going to take 3 years to pay off. But additionally, it's going to be built very specifically custom for your website. You're not going to have extra bells and whistles you'll never need to use. You're not going to have missing features that you definitely need. So it's fully bespokely created for the relevant situation.
Yeah, like a great example is like if you look at social media schedulers, for instance, you'll pay for something and then you don't use like at least 40% of the features there because it's not relevant to you. So you're essentially paying for these things that you don't need. So this is what a great thing is about these sort of custom solutions, is you get what you need and what you want, not just an off-the-shelf solution with a bunch of extras that make no sense that you're never going to use and you don't need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And there's also recently been stuff about going green on hosting, which is viable on all, well, not all, but most platforms you can get green hosting. But you've also got a thing called green coding, which is when people have put a bunch of extra code in that is unnecessary, and it takes the computer or the search engine more time to load it, which means it's taking up more energy. So with a custom solution, you can actually just put the code that you need, not a bunch of extra fluff.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's us nearly finished with our questions here. So if anyone's got anything else they would like to ask, please do. In the meantime, I would like to talk about being a guest on our live streams. So we are looking for guests to try and spice this up a little bit and get some more opinions and outside views for you guys, and give you someone else that you can ask questions to on different topics. Yep. Now, we do state that it's going to be 11 a.m. on Thursday, every Thursday, and it's going to be UK time, so we won't be able to adjust that timing because we want to keep a consistent schedule. We do ask that you're within the digital sphere because we are talking about websites, SEO, content creation, branding, that kind of stuff. So if you can come in and add to that, that would be excellent. We're open to anyone, really, as long as they're able to contribute to what we're already building. So if you know someone or if you want to be part of it, message us at ETV Studios and we will have a chat and see where we can slot you in.
Sounds good. I look forward to speaking to a few more people about what their thoughts are on some websites. I wouldn't say I have a forcibly correct opinion because there is a lot of subjective elements on either designs or layouts or whatever. So it'd be good to get some different perspectives and some different people. Really good to get some I guess some people that are more into marketing as well, particularly within the digital sphere, because I know there's a lot of people that have a lot of questions about how people can do marketing and elements like those. I know I have some questions, so it'd be great to share some knowledge and information with a few different people on that as well.
And it'll be both of us, still both of us here to ask questions and probe people. So I'm not the most technically minded, so I often probe Mike to like dumb down certain things for us. So we'd be doing the exact same with a guest, is letting them talk, asking questions, and having stuff sort of ready for you guys to step in, ask what you want to ask. You know, if you want to grill them, go ahead, but be nice about it.
Yeah, no, that's all good. I mean, I've been doing a few different presentations recently, whether that's been on analytics, whether it's been on SEO or anything else. But if anyone has any questions or wants to know anything, please just either get in touch during our Thursday lives or ping me an email, and we can maybe find some time to have a chat or see what people's requirements are to move things forward. I think that's pretty much it for today, Ailey. So we'll let people go a little bit earlier than usual. This will be on Facebook, LinkedIn, and staying on YouTube, where we've got our players. So if people want to catch up or see any of our previous ones, which would be things about more about custom websites, a lot more specifics about search engine optimization and how to do that, more about analytics and alternatives to using Google. There's loads of stuff on our YouTube channel, so please do check it out.
Yeah, we've also got lots of little short videos there to help you out with like breaking down things. We've got a free training video up on idea generation, which you're more than welcome to watch. We also cut some of these into TikTok and do some silly stuff on TikTok as well, if anyone wants to follow us on there as well. So that's us for today. I hope to see you next week. And again, that's every Thursday at 11. We are here to talk tech.
Sounds good. Right. Catch everyone later.
Right. Bye.
Bye.